Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. How are you?
Today.
That's okay. That's okay. Seems like I just saw you.
I know, that's what it feels like. It pretty much was.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Jonathan made it here.
Just looking at my stopwatch.
You ready to go?
I'll be ready. It's 9:15 on the button.
I would go ahead.
9:16.
Perfect.
All right. Let's see. Just. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Boker Tov. Why don't we get started on page 103 for Birchat HaShachar. Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'vina lehavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol zarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanotein laya'ef koach. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shem. U'tneinu hayom u'v'chol yom lecheinu lechesed l'rachamim be'einecha u've'einei chol ro'einu v'tigmelenu chasadim tovim Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. Page 105. Lo'olam yehei adam yirei shamayim ba'seter u'vagalui. The top of page 106. Ashreinu ma tov chelkenu, uma na'im goralenu, uma yafa yerushatenu. Ashreinu shanachnu mashkimim uma arivim, erev vavoker v'yomrim pamayim b'chol yom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vayed. We're at the bottom of page 106. Kadesh et Shimcha al Makdishei Shemecha veKadesh et Shimcha biolamecha uvishuatecha tarim v'tagbiha karnenu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh et Shimcha barabim. Pages 107 through 109. Please choose a rabbinic text for individual study. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I sure hope so. He doesn't keep going. He has all my son.
okay, I counted Jonathan, not Villa. I counted Craig. Okay. I believe you. I seem to be lacking in that department.
I don't know. You're usually very
All
accurate.
right. Page 110. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu she'titen chalkenu b'toratecha v'nihiyeh mitalmidav shel Aharon hakohen ohev shalom v'rodef shalom ohev et habriot u'mekarvan la Torah. Page 112. Psalm for Shabbat. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Shebo Hayu Halviim Omrim Beveit Hamikdash Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbat. Od Yenuvun Beseva Deshenim V'Ra'ananim Yehiyu Lehagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tsuri V'Lo Avlata Bo. Page 120, Psalm of David. Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid. Hafachta mispedi lemacholi, pitachta sakivat azreini simcha, lema'an yezamercha chavod velo yidom, Adonai Elohai leolam odecha. I think that's our minion. Kaddish Yatom, page 121. All those in mourning or observing Yortzeit may rise. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabah, be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shmei dekudisha, brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma, v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Page 122, Baruch She'amar, please rise. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam baruchu, Baruch oseh v'reishit, Baruch omer v'yoseh, Baruch gozer umkayem, Baruch mirachim al ha'aretz, Baruch mirachim al ha'briot, Baruch mishalem sachar tov lireyav, Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam la'netzach, Baruch podeu matzil, Baruch hu Baruch shemo. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim el chalam ha'el hav ha'rachaman u'mechalal b'fi yamo. Yachidchei haolamim, melech meshubach umfa'ar adei ad shemo hagadol, Baruch atah Adonai, melech mechulal batish bachot. You may be seated, page 136, Ashrei. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha udyalucha sela, Ashrei hamshecha chalo, Ashrei hamshed na Elohav tihila leDavid. Tehillat Adonai yedaber pi vivarech kol basar shem kodsho leolam vaed. V'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. Page 137. Hallelujah, hallelujah nafshi et Adonai. Adonai shomer et gerim, yatom v'almana ye'oded v'derech rishaim ye'avet. Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohayech Tzion ledor vador. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Ki tov zamra Eloheinu, ki na'im nava tehillah. 138. Magi devarav liYaakov, chukav umishpatav liYisrael, lo asachen lechol goy umishpatim bal yedaum. Hallelujah. Page 139. Hallelujah. Hallelu et Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelu bam romim. Vayarem keren liamo tehila lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Shiru ladonai shir chadash tehilato bichal chasidim. 140. Lesor malchechem bezikim v'nich b'deihem bechavlei varzel la'asot bahem mishpat katuv hadar hu lechol chasidav. Hallelujah. Page 141. Hallelujah. Hallelujah el bekodsho. Hallelujah birkiauzo. Hallelujah vigvurotav. Hallelujah kirov gudlo. Hallelujah, vitzil tzalei shama. Hallelujah, vitzil tzalei trua. Kol hanshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai leolam amen v'amen. Baruch Adonai mitzion shochen Yerushalayim. Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael oseni flaot levado. Uvaruch Shem kevodo leolam v'yimelech kevodo et kol haaretz. Amen v'amen. Page 142, please rise. Vayevarech David et Adonai leinei kol hakahal vayomer David. Atahu Adonai ha-Elohim asher bacharta be'Avram v'hotzetu me'or kasdim v'samta shemo Avraham umatzata et levavo ne'eman lefanecha v'charot imo habrit. V'hayam bakata lifnehem, v'yavru v'toch hayam bayabasha, v'et rodfehem hishlachta bimtzolot kimo even b'mayim azim. Page 143. Vayosh Adonai bayom hahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim, vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim metal sfat hayam, vayar Yisrael et hayad hagidola, asher as Adonai b'Mitzrayim, vayir'u ha'am et Adonai, vaya'aminu b'Adonai uv Moshe avdo. Az Yashir Moshe Uvenei Yisrael Et Hashira Hazot Ladonai Vayomru Lemor Ashira Ladonai Ki Gaolga Sus Verochvo Rama Vayam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot o seifelech. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Ki ladonai hamlucha moshel bagoyim, v'yalu moshim behar Tzion lishpot et haresav, v'haita ladonai hamlucha, v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated, page 145. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. At the bottom of page 146, LeDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol karavai et shem kodsho. 147. Ha'el beta'atzumot uzecha hagadol bichvod shemecha hagibor lanetzach v'hanora benorotecha hamelech hayoshev al kisei ram v'nisa.
We say a Yashikoch to Phil for getting us going this morning. He's become a Psuke de Zimra professional. Yashikoch, great job. As always, getting us moving. And you think you didn't have an effect? I see people like walking down the courtyard right now. They're coming.
Oh, wow. Here they go.
Yeah, they're actually running. I see a couple of people. So there you go. You brought them in. Greg's going to help me up here, right? You're going to sing loud? We're small but mighty, but we're getting there. I can see them coming down the block here. So we're going to begin Shachrit as we do each Shabbat morning on page 147 as we let God know we're here and say Shabbat Shalom. Shochen had maharom v'kadosh shemo. V'chatuv rarenu tzadikim baronai la yisharim navatehila b'fi yisharim titala l'vdivrei tzadikim titbarach u'b'lshon chasidim titromam u'v'kerev kedoshim titkadash u'v'makahalot rivivot amcha beit Yisrael barinai parshim chamakenu b'chador vador. Shekain chohavat kol hayitzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'lehei avoteinu lehodod lehalel leshabeach lefaer leramim lehader levarech lehalei u'kahalei so kol divrei shiro v'tishbachot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha. 148. We rise. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu el hamelech hagadol hakadosh b'shamayim. Berachot v'hodaot me'ata v'yad olam baruch ata Adonai el melech gadol batishbachot el hahodaot adon haniflaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech el chei ha'olamim Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba v'yamad yivrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayechon uvyomechon v'chayerecho be'Yisrael ba'agala b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olomei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitmam yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha v'richu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran b'yama v'imru amen. 149 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Top of 150. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei choshech oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. You are welcome to be seated. We're on the top part of 150. Hakol yaducha v'chakol shevachucha. En kerkecha v'en zulatecha efes biltecha umidamelach. En kerkecha v'en zulatecha efes biltecha umidamelach. En kerkecha ba'olam hazeh v'en zulatecha ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha limot hamashiach v'en domelecha l'tchiat hametim. El Adon al kol hamasim baruch umvorach befi kol neshama gadla v'tuva malei olam da'at udvuna sovevimoto Amid gael achayot hakodesh v'nedar bechavod hamerkava zechutu mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei chevodo Tovim be'orot shebara Eloheinu yitzaram b'da'at b'vina u'chaskel koach u'gvura Natan bahem liot moshlim b'kerev tevel Maleim zibum fikim noga na'ezivam b'chol ha'olam Semechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'voam Osim b'yehem aretzon konam Pe'er v'chavod notnim lishmot Zahala v'rina lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh v'yizrach ora'a V'hitkin tzurat alvana Shevach notnim lo kol tzevam Tiferet u'gedula serafim ve'ofanim ve'chayot hakodesh la'el asher shavat mikol ha'ma'asim b'yom hashvi'i. We're on 152. Titbarach Moshienu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha v'al me'orei or she'asita yifaru chasela. 153. Titbarach tzurenu malkeinu v'go'aleinu v'rei kedoshim yishtabach shem chalad malkeinu. Yirei machayim melech ha'olam. Kulam alvim, kulam birurim, kulam giborim, v'chulam osim yehema, uvyirat etzon konam, v'chulam porchim epihem b'kedusha u'b'tahara, v'shira v'zimra, u'mvarachim u'mshabachim u'mfarim u'ma'aritzim, u'makdishim u'mamlichim, et shem ha'el ha'melech, Hagadol Hagibor Hanora Kadoshu וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליוצרם מנחת רוח בשפה ורבים הקדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. והאופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול, מתנסים למצרפים, למטה משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. לאל ברוך נמות יצאנו. מלכך וקיים. מחדש בתקווה בכל יום תמיד, ספר שכמון. Bottom of 153. אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה לנו מהרה לאורו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Page 154, we join together. Ahava Rabba Haftanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagidol Avitera Chamalta Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avur Avoteinu Shabbat Chuvecha Avinu Malkeinu Vatelam Den Chukechayim Kain Techonenu Tlam Denu Avinu Ha'av Rachaman Amrachem Rachem Aleinu Veten V'libenu Lehavinu Haskil Ishmael Lilmodu Lilamed Lishmor Belasot Ukayem et Kol Divrei Talmud Torah Techav Yahava Ve'ha'ernenu b'Torah Techa v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha Ve'yached levavenu le'yahava u'yir'a et shemecha ve'la'nevosh le'olam va'ed ve'la'nevosh le'olam va'ed ki v'shem kodshecha Hagadol v'hanara b'hatachnu Nagila v'nismecha v'yeshuatecha. We gather together the four corners of the talit as we join the bottom of 154. V'havienu le'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu kamemiyut le'artzenu ki helpo el yeshuotata uvanu v'charta mikol ha'velashon v'keraftanu l'shimcha ha'gadol Selah be'emet lehodot lecha u'yachedcha bi'ahava Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'yamo Yisrael bi'ahava Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu le'echad. Ve'yafta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha havaderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. We read in the English together on the left side of 155. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all that is yours. These words that I command you this day shall be taken to heart. Teach them again and again to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your home, when you walk on your way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand and as a symbol above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your home and on your gates. We continue silently, 156. In the middle of 156, you'll find the biblical instruction to wear the tzitzit coming from the book of Numbers. Again, we join together those four corners of the talit, and we have the tradition of kissing the tzitzit when we say the word as a reminder of how precious the mitzvot actually are to us. They are our vehicle for making the world a better place and enhancing our own lives with purpose. So page 156, we join together middle of the page. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem lidorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf patil techelet ve'hayalachem letzitzit or item oto uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam v'lo taturu acharei levavchem acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet Yatsi b'nechem v'chayam yashar Lidor vador hukayam ushmo kayam v'chison achon u'malchutov yamunato la'ahad kayamet v'rav chayim v'kahayamim and emanim and echmadim. Emet shatahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elahei avotenu malkeinu melech avotenu go'aleinu go'el avotenu yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu podenu matzilenu me'elam shemecha Ein Elohim zulatecha, Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Aginu Moshe lifnei mecharech mochodor vador. Emenatahu adonai mechana v'bori v'avam. Shalom tzrankaton hu'analim b'tchotim. I'm on page 158, about 7 lines down. Ahazot shibechu ahuvim, ahazot shibechu ahuvim, veramemo, 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 el, venatnu yedidim, venatnu yedidim, smirot, shirot, v'tishbachot, brachot, v'hodaot, Lamelech el chai v'kayam, Ram v'nisa gadol v'nohora, Mashpil geim u'magbi ha'shefalim, Motzi asirim u'fodei anavim, V'yozer dalim, V'yonel yamo, v'yonel yamo, v'yed Shavam elav, Tehilot le'el elyon, Baruch hu u'mevorach, Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael, lechanu shira, v'simcha rabba v'yamru cholam, michamacha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele. Shira chadasha, shivchu gilim, l'shimcha al sfat hayam, yachad kulam hodu v'him licho v'yamru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. We rise. Tzor Yisrael, kuma v'ezrat Yisrael, uftechinu mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, go aleinu, Adonai tzvot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We begin the Amidah together, page 159 at the top, and then on the left part of the page, 159. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi tehillatcha. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi tehillatcha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot, U'mevigo elif nevneihem lema'an shemo me'ava. Melech ozer u'fokedu Moshiach u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham u'foked Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei metim atah, Rav le'Hoshia. Morid hatal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye meitim berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishenei afar. Michamocha ba'al gevurot. Umido melech, melech meimit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'chayot metim, Baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hametim. 161. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam Kishem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom Kakatuv al yad neviecha B'kara ze el ze v'yamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzevaot Meloch ol haaretz kevodo. Az bekor ashgadol adir v'chazak mashmim kol mitnasim l'matzerahafim l'matam baruch yomeru baruch kevod Adonai mimkom chamakinu tzofia. Mim kam chamal keinu tofia v'tim loch alenukim achakim anachnu lach matai tim loch b'tzion b'karov yameinu le'lam vahed tishkon titgadal v'titkadash b'toch Yerushalayim yirecha Ledor vador ul netzach netzachim v'einenu tirena Shirei uzecha Al yedei David Mashiach tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayich Tzion Ledor vador Hallelujah Ledor vador nagid godlecha Unetzach netzachim kedusharcha nakdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed Ki el melech gadol v'kahadosh Ata Baruch ata Adonai Ha'el ha'kadosh Yismach Moshe v'manak chelko Kiv'enem ha'kashavaho. When you're through, you're welcome to be seated. As always, please take your time. In the middle of 165, you will find the seventh bracha, the final bracha, the final blessing in our Amidah, that as our seventh, the last Aliyah, as the last bracha always does, it is one of shalom, it's one of peace. It reminds us that putting all of those disparate pieces of the world together are part of our mission. Part of making the world a better place is bringing that sense of peace and shalom to the world. So page 165, we join together. Sim, sim, sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha, barcheinu avinu kulanu ki echad v'yor anecha, sim, sim, sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha, ki v'yor panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chayim v'avad chesed u'tzedaka uvracha v'rachamim v'chayim v'shalom, sim, sim, sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha, v'tov beinecha levarech et amecha Yisrael, b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך, sim, sim, sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 167. Yitkara v'yitkara shemei rabba v'yamad yivrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayerecho b'Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimeru Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olam me'olmaya yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram v'yama v'yimeru Amen. Titkabal tzloton uva'uton d'chol Yisrael kol dam avuhani v'yishemaya v'yimeru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim alini v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimeru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimeru Amen. With that, you are welcome to be seated for just a minute. We conclude our Shacharit portion of our service. As we move forward into the Torah service, I'm going to ask for a little help from the Torah service today. Any of our teenagers Samuel's looking at me like, okay, that's me. Your dad's going, that's you. You're going to get help because Micah is coming up too. And actually Micah's brother and sister, Hannah, yeah, Elijah, you guys can come on up. If you'll come on up, it's going to be Torah service by committee. Our theme today is community, right? Nami knows this. Our theme today is community. We just talked about the prayer for shalom, for bringing the different pieces of our world together. Federation does that. It brings the pieces of our community together, our Jewish community together. And so we're celebrating that today. So appropriately, we're going to bring the pieces of our congregation together. So come on up. Here she comes. Anyone else who wants to have a little fun with us up here? You know how to do this. This isn't anything you guys don't know how to do, right? Yeah, I know. I'm tired too. I'm with you. Page 168, you will find Seder Hata'at HaTorah, our service for taking out and studying the Torah. Again, we are celebrating community today, as we will hear from Nami in just a little while after the Torah reading. And we will focus in on how we can make the world better together. That's our mission, and as I know, the Federation's motto of sorts is stronger together. So that's what we are working towards. Page 168, we rise, if you will be so kind to, as we study and take out the Torah. 168.
In kamocha Elohim Adonai ve'kemahasecha
Malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'hador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed
Adonai
Le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion tivnei chomot Yerushalayim tivnei chomot Yerushalayim ki v'cha levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisar
Vayehi ben Saharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai Ve'afutzu oivecha Ve'amusu mesanecha Mifanecha Ki metzion tetzei Torah Ki metzion tetzei Torah Adonai miYerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Adonai, on this special Shabbat, as we approach the Aron HaKodesh, we seek inspiration and renewal. As we prepare to hear once again the words of your Torah, we rededicate ourselves to your law of love. We remind ourselves of the mitzvot that we are to fulfill during the short span of our human lives, but we recognize that their effects will last forever. Honoring parents, doing deeds of loving kindness, attending worship services on a regular basis, welcoming guests, visiting the sick, rejoicing in celebrations of life, comforting the bereaved, probing the meaning of prayer, and making shalom between one human being and another. And the study of Torah underlies all of them. Together we recite the Bracha that reminds us it is indeed a mitzvah to make the study of Torah an ongoing part of our daily lives. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. We continue, page 170, the very bottom, Be'anarachetz.
Be'anarachetz Velishmei Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Be'anarachetz Be'anarachetz Velishmei Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Yehi Rava Kadama Letifach Libi Ve'oraita V'tashli Mishali Delibi V'liba V'kol Amach Yisrael L'tavu Chaim V'lishma.
Page 171, you'll find Shema Echad Gadlu. We repeat after each of the first two lines as all of you on the bima lead us.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti umerov ema Shemo Yachdav.
Lecha Adonai
Shamayim v'aretz Adonai
So, switch over to our red Chumashim. So the Torah reading of Emor continues the theme of Kedusha, of holiness of behavior and of action and of belief, which we studied last week in last week's Parashah of Kedoshim, and actually touched on in the Parashah before that of Acharei Mot. So this first section of the full portion of Emor is directed to the Kohanim. So any Kohanim, if you're out here, you got to listen up, right? So it's directed to the Kohanim, the priests, and it explains the way in which they were to strive for holiness in their roles as representatives of the people before God. In the last third of the portion, since we study the triennial, we do the triennial reading, meaning we divide each portion into 3 parts, and as is the national and international cycle, we're on the last 1/3 of the portion. We move from the topic of Kedusha, of holiness, in connection to the priests and individuals and their families, and we move from their outward appearance and their relationship with the animal kingdom, all of that stuff is what we've been studying, to probably what Judaism's ultimate innovation is. We move to the Kedusha of time, the holiness of time. So let me ask you a question. How many of you, don't pull them out, but how many of you have your iPhones, right? Your smartphones or whatever you have, and what do you have on there? Used to be we had Blackberries just for this, right? Old school, we had Blackberries. Before that, there was actually paper calendars, right? But now we just get out our Google Calendar, or we take out our smartphones, and we, right there, already programmed into it is the calendar program. You don't have to do anything. Then you can say, meeting with Craig, 2 o'clock Thursday, right? Call Mark, there it is, at 5 o'clock on Friday, whatever it is, right? So it's all there for us. So for those of us who live amongst the flurry of appointments, meetings, activities, special events, my favorite NAMI, every meeting I've had with NAMI so far, when they've been virtual, he's been in a car, traveling somewhere, right? So I can imagine what your calendar looks like. Driving in through Colorado, 4 o'clock Eastern time, right? Or Central time, call in, right? That's our lives. There's a flurry of appointments, and we have to keep our calendars, if you will. It's not easy. It's not easy because now we're on the move. We don't even have to be in our offices. We don't have to look at our desk calendar sitting. I don't even know if anyone buys those anymore. Does anyone buy one of those big desk calendars that you write on? Jean's old school. I'm with you. I always have a paper calendar, but I have to admit I'm using it less and less. But I do rely on it. I buy it every year. And we have our luach. We live by this luach, right? Because on Shabbat especially, I don't have a computer screen in front of me. So when I want to make sure I know what day of the Omer we're counting, or what the verses are in the Torah, here it is right here. It's a calendar. It's a luach. It's literally called a luach. Luach means calendar, right? Of course, it does much more than just give us a date. It tells us a lot more. It tells us what our appointments are, if you will, with the Torah today. That's what it does for us. So those of us who do that in our busy world, each of us kind of keeps track, I'm sure, in some way. There's no way in our modern world we can't do that. Whether it's that Google Calendar or the calendar app on the smartphone or some kind of planner, you probably have more sophisticated things than I do. Or if you're like Jean and I, we take out the paper calendar. We have to mark our personal events, our days, our weeks, our months. So whether your life schedule is stored however you use it, whatever your calendar is, I guarantee we're all living by a calendar in some way, shape, or form to help us keep organized, to help us be on time, to help us be prepared for whatever is coming in our lives. If we take a serious look at our individual calendars, I think we would be reminded of the time each of us devotes to relationships. I know I have birthdays on my calendar, right? I add it's somebody's birthday, I'll add it in there, and I even have a function. One reminder each year. I'm like, yes, let's remind it each year. I'll look like $1 million. I'll remember their birthday 5 years from now. There it is on my calendar. I don't even know who they are anymore, but I'll remember it, right?
Since most of our dated entries tell about scheduled meetings with families or friends or clients or patients or others whose presence touch our lives, whether it's business or family, that's really what a calendar is doing for us for the most part. It's giving us our connection to relationships. So this morning's Torah reading might be seen as maybe the most ancient or early version of our modern Google Calendar. For in it we find described the rhythm of the Jewish calendar and its special relationship to God. Leviticus 23, God declares, Moadei Adonai asher tikru'u otam mikra kodesh elehem moadai. You shall proclaim the appointed seasons of Adonai to be holy convocations, for these are my appointed seasons. These are my special dates on the calendar. Pay attention to them, says God. So what is the first of these sacred convocations described? What would you think is the very first? Okay, one of Pesach, is that what you said? Okay, Pesach, why? Spring, all right, and technically, Nisan is the first month, and so Passover would be that first holiday. However, not the answer. Anyone else? Rosh Hashanah, most second very logical answer, absolutely. Rosh Hashanah, okay, so Rosh Hashanah, why? Because it's the head of the calendar year, right? Of the year, meaning it's the head of when our date changes. Yes, I know it's confusing. We have lots of New Years, by the way. If you haven't looked at it, like at least 4 in the Mishnah. Tells us there's at least 4 of them. Some even suggest there's 5, right? Passover or Nisan would be one of them. Rosh Hashanah is when the calendar date changes, right? 5783 we're going to be headed towards in the fall. Okay, but it's not that. So it's not Rosh Hashanah, it's not Nisan. What sacred convocation would you think would be described first? I hear it, Shabbat. Absolutely. 6 days we are to work, but on the 7th day we rest from the regular, the ordinary, and we focus only upon the holy. Just because it comes every week doesn't mean it isn't special. The Torah continues to define the series of Jewish holidays, our other times of holy convocation, and their designated times of observance, beginning with, as Craig suggested, Passover, and then we count the Omer, and then we do Shavuot. Then we have the fall holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then Sukkot. So yes, we start with that, but above all of that is Shabbat. What makes these times holy? What makes them holy? We have to ask. Well, it's not merely the cessation of work or even any act unique to the day being observed. You know, what makes it holy, right? The Seder on Passover, building a sukkah on Sukkot. What makes these holy times is that they're appointments made by God with us for a designated hour of the week, the day, or even the season of the year. Think about it in the context of your calendar. In our daily lives, we do not like to be late for a lunch date or a business appointment or the like, lest we demonstrate a lack of respect for that person. Then kal v'chomer, using a good Talmudic principle, kal v'chomer, all the more so, we should certainly not want to be late by even a minute for one of our scheduled appointments with God. God's times are not only individual appointments, they carry upon them the weight of the community. For these special times are scheduled for us to meet together with the larger Jewish community for an encounter with God. So it's not just it's not just on the calendar, right? On my calendar, it's not on your calendar, it's on our calendar. And by appearing as a community, we acknowledge the priority of keeping our appointments with God. And the absence of even a single individual, we might argue, diminishes our sanctification of God. So think for a moment how you feel when packed in the midst of a busy day of appointments and phone calls, you've set aside an hour to connect with your loved one, maybe over lunch, right? Get to have lunch with your spouse or your friend, or out of the busy day, you take that. Or how about the time we make to join with special friends for dinner and a movie, right? You got a busy day. Oh, but tonight, Thursday night, I'm going to go X, Y, or Z with my friends. So we have to see Shabbat each week in a similar way, or Passover, or any of our other Jewish holidays, as that special time set aside to take a breath from the busy routine and to share some quality time building relationships. Those appointed Mikra Kodesh, those holy convocations on our Jewish calendar, Shabbat, the holidays that we celebrate, are vital to us as Jews and as human beings. They provide the time and the structured opportunities we need to connect and to discover God. They offer to us as Jews and human beings the perspective, the balance, the meaning, the hope that we need to face a world often overshadowed by the ordinary, the meaningless, or even the profane. So the next time you talk about your time at the gym, right? This is my time at the gym. No one can bother me. Between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, I'm going to walk the treadmill. Between, I don't know what hour you go, Kim, 7 o'clock in the morning to 7:30, I'm 5. Yeah, I know, it's earlier than that. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm running. I don't know how you people do it, but good for you. Or I'm on the golf course from 7:30 to 8:30. Don't bother me. Turn the phone off, right? So next time you think about those appointments, those scheduled activities that you have, whether it's a tennis match with a friend or a phone call with a significant other or a family, when you think of those as unchangeable or sacred appointments or activities, consider the opportunities we have to fill our spiritual calendars with times and dates that are inherently kadosh, they're inherently holy. These appointments that are set aside for us by God to connect to and to discover our heritage, our community, and God's self. So I'm glad that you've put this Shabbat morning on your spiritual calendar. Thank you. And even if you're watching from afar, wonderful. So we could join together and celebrate community and to connect to one another and to God as well. So the message of our reading today: plan and use God's time and our time really well. So I hope you'll keep these in mind as we begin this morning's Torah reading of Emor, with the charge to keep the holiday of, as we said, Rosh Hashanah, one of our holy appointments with God. We know the shofar is going to be blown on Rosh Hashanah. It's our spiritual alarm clock that says, wake up. It's the time of year to pause and to think back upon the time that has passed so that we may better set our priorities for holy living in the future. So that's the theme as we again read the last 1/3. But in total, as we look at the end of the parashah, you will see this wonderful ancient Google calendar, which I hope we all will try to pay attention to. So again, we will begin our Torah reading in your Chumash. If you'd like to look, 727 verse 23, as we pick up right in the middle of chapter 23.
Yazor v'yorein Yoshi Allah Simo Amen. Hakol Ovuko Del Eloheinu Nukavod LeTorah. Ya'amo David Yisrael ben Meir HaKohen v'Flida Mendel. Baruch Shenotam Torah Li'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato. Yatim Avikim Adonai Elohim Hayim Kol Haim Hayom.
For the Kohen Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors David Hauser. Our first appointment with the Torah this morning may be found on page 727, beginning verse 23, second last line, page 727. The Torah reader is Rabbi Cohen.
Baruch Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baruch rabanu mikol ami v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael lemor, b'chodesh hashvi'i b'echad lachodesh, yeh lachem Shabbaton zichron teruah mikra kodesh, kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu v'hikraftem ishel Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yamo. David again. David Yisrael ben Meir Kohen v'Flida Mendel. Levi.
For the Levi Aliyah this morning, we also honor David Hauser. The reading for this Aliyah may be found page 728, beginning verse 26.
Just a quick note, we move, of course, what's the next holiday after Rosh Hashanah? Yom Kippur. So you'll see it's presented as a day for restoring the soul, a day set aside on our calendar to really bear our souls before God, before pausing from the daily and the yearly routine to look inside and then outwardly.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam V'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barak banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Ach ba'asor lachodesh hashvi'i hazeh yom ha'kippurim hu. Mikra kodesh yeh lachem v'nitem et nafshotechem v'hikravtem ishel Adonai v'chol malacha lo tasu be'etzem hayom hazeh ki yom kippurim hu lechaper alechem lifnei Adonai Elohechem ki chol hanefesh asher lo te'uneh be'etzem hayom hazeh v'nichreta me'ameha v'chol hanefesh asher ta'aseh kol malacha be'etzem hayom hazeh v'ha'avadeti et hanefesh ahi mikerev amaha kol malacha lo ta'asu chukat olam ledorotechem v'chol moshvotechem Shabbaton hu lachem v'initem et nafshotechem v'tish'a lachodesh ba'erev me'erev ad erev tishbetu she'ahatchem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah tamet v'chayei olam atah b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Amen. Yamot Shlishi.
Okay, so what's our third holiday on our calendar, starting from Rosh Hashanah? Yom Kippur, Sukkot. So here we are. See, I'm telling you, we're just turning the pages of our weeks in our calendar. So here we observe the holiday of Sukkot, and it's a reminder, again, a continued reminder of Mo'adei Adonai, appointed times we should have on our personal and communal calendars as we connect to God and our community.
For the third Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Jonathan Prouse. The reading may be found page 729, beginning verse 33, the first line, page 729. The Torah reader is Rabbi Cohen.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch
Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam asher barak banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Amen. Stay up here real close. You get to hold that. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael lemor, v'chamisha asar yom, v'chodesh hashvi'i hazeh, chag haSukkot, shivat yamim l'Adonai, v'yom harishon mikra kodesh, kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, shiv'at yamim takrivu ishel Adonai, v'yom hashmini mikra kodesh yeh lachem v'hikravtem ishel Adonai atzeret hi kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu ele modei Adonai asher tikru otam mikra e kodesh L'hakriv ishel Adonai olam mincha, zevach unisachim, devar yom b'yomo. Milvad Shabbatot Adonai, umilvad matnotechem, umilvad kol nidrechem, umilvad kol nidrohotechem, asher titnu l'Adonai. Ach b'chamisha asar yom lachodesh hashvi'i, ve'ospechem et tvu'at ha'aretz, tachogu et chag Adonai shib'at yamim. Bayom harishon Shabbaton, ubiyom chamishi hashmini Shabbaton. Ulkachtem lachem bayom harishon, peri et hadar kapot tamarim, va'anaf eitz avot ve'arvei nachal, usmachtem lifnei Adonai Elohechem shivat yamim, v'chagotem oto chag l'Adonai shivat yamim b'shana, chukat olam l'dorotechem, b'chodesh hashvi'i tachogu oto, b'Sukkot teshvu shivat yamim, kol ha'ezrach v'Yisrael yeshvu b'Sukkot, leman yed'u dorotechem, ki b'Sukkot hoshavti et b'nei Yisrael v'hotzi otam me'eretz Mitzrayim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Vayidaber Moshe et moadei Adonai el b'nei Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayai olam atah b'torenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Don't go away. Okay. So Yonah ben Avraham Vasara. That's his Hebrew name. You are now officially called up to the Torah for the very first time. Woohoo! Jonathan has been studying Judaism for quite a long time. He finished his formal rites of conversion a couple of weeks ago, and we are very, very proud of him. And this is his first time to be able to obviously be here and have the mitzvah of an Aliyah to the Torah. And I don't know about you, but I'm very excited and happy for you. And with that comes a little bit of chocolate, little sweetness thrown your way. And definitely we say a Shehechianu as he reaches this very special milestone in his new Jewish life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Mazel tov. Thank you.
Ya'amod Moshe Baruch ben Eliza Mikaela Revi'i.
So the fourth Aliyah, we move back to the theme of holiness and ritual in relation to the priestly duties in the tabernacle. The priests were to tend to the lamp in the tabernacle, which was to be perpetually burning, using only the purest of olive oil. So we get to some details, right? This is the agenda of the meeting that you're attending. Now you know what's going on. But this is a little bit of a left turn in terms of our calendar, but it gives us the details of what we are to be doing on that date that we're here.
For the fourth Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Micah Holly. The reading for the fourth Aliyah may be found page 731, chapter 24, verse 1, first line, page 731. The Torah reader is Jeff Cohen. Michael Hickey. Micah Hickey.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yasher Koach. Very good.
Amen. V'daber Adonai Moshe lemor tzav et bnei Yisrael v'ikhu elecha shemen zayit zach kativ lamor le'alot ner tamid michutz v'parok et ha'edut be'ohel moed Yarok oto Aaron me'erev ad boker libnei Adonai tamid chukat olam l'dorotechem al hamenorah tahorah Yarok et hanerot libnei Adonai tamid.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chil lanu talmid tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
We're in a period of firsts here. So this is Micah's anniversary of his bar mitzvah. Not exactly, but this is his first. We're marking his first year since his bar mitzvah. We weren't able to do it just a few weeks ago on Tazria Matzorah, so we said, hey, here's the next best time we can get you here, and we celebrate with you. Also with a little bit of chocolate and a shehechianu as you mark a year's time. It's gone by fast, right? She's going, oh yeah, it's gone by. Leslie's like, yeah, it's gone by. I think you've grown a little bit. Your hair's gotten shorter and you've gotten taller. So we join together, shehechianu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyumanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Mazel tov. Here's your koach. I'm up first. All right. We're going to do a Misha Berach for those who are ill. We'll take our moment right now. You didn't get any chocolate? Are we celebrating anything special? Okay. I would acknowledge it, that's why. We pause for our Misha Berach. We've come a long way, because a couple years ago when I got here, we weren't even anybody to throw chocolate to, so now we're at least all in the room together. It's wonderful. We join together as we certainly pray for healing and health for those who are in need. Misha Berach Avotenu Vimotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Yivarech V'yapeh Kol HaCholim Aryeh ben Shmuel Bela bat Sora bat Yaleah bat Esther Bela bat Malka Chaim Shmuel ben Leah Yocheved Daniel ben Sarah Esther bat Miriam Fega Riva bat Basha Feivel ben Avraham Feivel ben Rachel Friedel bat Moshe Feivel Zelek ben Bela v'Chaim Beryl Halevi Hadassah bat Realeah Hinda bat Chava, Ilan Nesher ben Rivka, Leah bat Yehudit, Liat bat Rivka, Malka bat Zev, Masha bat Zisamorel, Masha Liba bat Rosalind, Moshe ben Miriam, Nachama Sarah bat David, Nachoma bat Yaakov, Peril bat Tama, Pinchas Velvel ben Leah, Rachel bat Devorah, Rachel bat Yehudit Chaya, Raphael ben Wolf, Rachel Chenya bat Noah v'Fega, Shlomo bat Yaakov, Shena Gittel bat Masha, Shendel bat Golda, Shimon ben Chana, Shlomit Chana bat Bela, Shoshana bat Pearl, Simcha ber ben Chaya, Tova bat Sarah, Yaakov ben Shlomit Chana, Yechezkel ben Sarah, Yehudit Golda bat Elka, Yoah ben Yosef, Yosef ben Avraham v'Sara, Tzivia Miriam bat Abigail Batcha, Alan Waghalter, Art Donaldson, Barbara Argo, Carson Moser, Charlie Pruitt, Daniela Valdez Vasquez, Sophie Handler, Elaine Marin, Elna King, Gary Rosenthal, Joseph Godovin, Jill Testa, Carol Bloom Rumsey, Kimberly Lang, Maria Beck, Marion Braun, Mark Hermelin, Mary Young, Bill Zipkin Day, Robin Keller, Rosario Vasquez, Sarah Ibarra, Shane Goldberg, Sharon Abelo, Sharon Hermelin, and to all whose names we recite aloud or within our thoughts at this moment. HaKadoshim alei rachamim aleihem lachazikam rapotam v'yishlach lahem mehirat refuah shlema l'chol averihem v'gidehem b'toch shar chalei Yisrael refuat hanefesh urefuat haguf v'nomar Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, grant the blessing of healing and health to all whose names we recited aloud or had within our thoughts. May God be with them, and with those who care for them. May the Holy One strengthen them, bringing them healing of body and soul, together with all others, whether ill in the hospital or at home. And together we say, Amen. Refuah Shlema.
Yamod Amishi.
This next Hamishi Aliyah includes the inscription or the description of 12 loaves of chalot, which were to be an offering to God as part of the celebration of the holidays. All right, Cameron, this is your question, right? 12 chalot. Why 12 loaves? Oh, there you go. Will you agree with Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra, who said the 12 loaves represents one offering for each of the 12 tribes? That's why we had 12 loaves. So you'll see this description in this 5th Aliyah. Cameron and I had an email exchange about the blessings of the Amidah and the tribes, but I don't think that one necessarily applies, but this one does. So here you do get one day out of the week, you get it, right?
Uzio ben Avraham Vasera.
For the 5th Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Peter Amanderos. The reading for the 5th Aliyah may be found page 731, beginning verse 5. The Torah reader is Jeff Cohen.
Baruch Adonai Hamborak.
Baruch Adonai Morach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mechol Chamim Banatan Lanu Et HaTorah. Baruch Ata Adonai Notan HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Elakata solet viafita haotash de besrei halot shnei esronim yeh hachala haechad besam taotam shtayim arachot shesh hamarachet al hashulchan hatahor livnei Adonai minatata Hama'arechet levona zaka dehaita halalechem lezkara ishel Adonai b'yom HaShabbat ya'archenu livnei Adonai tamid me'et b'nei Yisrael berit olam dehaita le'aharon olvanav ba'achaluhu b'makom kadosh Ki Kodesh Kadashim Hulo Meishe Adonai HaKola.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Toda Emet B'chayai Olam Nata Betohenu Baruch Ata Adonai Notan HaTorah.
Amen. Yeah. Yashikoach.
Ta'amod Avra Yehudit Bat Shmuel V'Bat Yashishi.
So in the Shishi Aliyah, we're going to move from the subject of holiness in time and space to holy behavior. We kind of move back to the theme of holy behavior. We're told of an Israelite who in the heat of a physical struggle blasphemes the name of God. What exactly did he say? We don't know, but one interpretation is that this young man simply pronounced the ineffable name of God, and that would not be something you'd want to do. Another interpretation suggests that this young man attempted to use God's name as magic to help him win in his fight. From the text, it seems that no one knew how to respond to the man's actions, but they knew the behavior was not proper. So sometimes we just know it's not right, but we don't know what to do about that. So in the next Aliyah, we're going to see that the penalty is quite severe. It indicates that words are every bit as important as actions. What we say are just as important as what we do. And the rabbis of the Talmud later interpreted the harsh penalty, reinterpreted it rather, so that it would be more in line with the highest standards of holy and ethical behavior. So this is an example of we'll see in a minute, a punishment that we have that was changed through the lens of the rabbis later on. But we recognize the message underneath it is that words are important just as much as what we do is what we say.
For the sixth Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Jean Kieran. The reading for the sixth Aliyah may be found page 732, verse 10, first line, page 732. The Torah reader is Jeff Cohen.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim Vanatan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Notain HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayetze ben Isha Yisraelit behu ben Ish Mitzri betok b'nei Yisrael vayinatzu b'machane ben HaYisraelit ve'ish HaYisraeli vayikov ben Ha'isha HaYisraelit et Hashem vaykalel vayaviu oto el Moshe b'shem imo Shlomit bat Dibri Lemate dahan Yanihu b'mishmar Lifros lahem al pi Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natalanu Torah Emet V'Haye Olam Nata Betochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Notain HaTorah.
Amen.
Ya'amot Shvi'i. I don't know. Nehemiah, Ben, Lihu, Vahana.
For the seventh Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Nami Yishalov. The reading for the seventh Aliyah may be found page 732, beginning verse 13.
Baruch Adonai Vorach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam
Baruch
Vahed.
Adonai Vorach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vadaber Adonai al Moshe Lamoher. Hotzei et hamkalel el michutz lamachane yisamchu chol hashomeim et yedehem al rosho v'ragmu oto kol ha'edah v'bnei Yisrael tedaber lemor ish ki yikalel Elohav v'nasach eto v'nokev shem Adonai mod yumat Ragom Yirgmuvo Kol Ha'edah Kager Ka'ezrach Binok Voshem Yumat Ve'ish Ki Yakeh Kol Nefesh Adam Mod Yumat Makeh Nefesh Behema Yeshal Mena Nefesh Tachat Nefesh Ve'ish Ki Tenmu Bamito Kasher Asa Ken Yaseh Lo Shever tachat, shever ayin tachat ayin, shein tachat shem, kasher yitin mum b'adam, ken yinatin bo, umakeh behema yeshal mena, umakeh adam yumat, mishpat echad yeh lachem, kagen chezrach yeh, ki ani Adonai Elohechem, Vaydaber Moshe el b'nei Yisrael, vayotziu et hamkalel michutz lamachane, v'yirgemu oto avin u'b'nei Yisrael asu kasher, tziva Adonai et Moshe.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chai Olam Natan B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. We rise.
Please rise for Hatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Yomad Yibrak Yirtei v'yamlik malchutei v'chai yechonu yom echad v'chai Vayed Echol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, Bagala, Ubizman Kari, Veimeru Amen. Yehishmei Rabba Mevora, Leolam Yalmei Almaya, Yiparak, Yishtabak, Yipari Tamari Naseh, Yitadar, Yitalev, Yitalal, Shemedi Kudusha Barichu, Leilami Kovir Chata, Veshirahata, Tushbechata, Nechemata, Damiran Me'alma, Veimeru Amen.
You may be seated. Yeah, please. Ta'amod, Harav, Mosheva, Batayim, Bahana. Maftir.
For the Maftir Aliyah this morning, the congregation honors Rabbi Cohen. The reading for the Maftir Aliyah may be found page 733, beginning verse 21.
We ever up here?
Oh, we finished there, so it's back.
Yeah, it's back here. That's what I'm saying.
Right here.
No, that's Adam. You gotta find one more. Here, right here. We'll get it. Smack dab in the middle of the line. Baruch hu et Adonai Amvorah. Baruch Adonai Barach Olam Vayed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Umake behema yishamena umake adam yumat. Mishpat echad yiheh lachem kager ke'ezrach yiheh ki ani Adonai Elohechem vayedaber Moshe el bnei Yisrael v'yotziu et hamikalel el michutz lamachaneh vayirgemu oto aven ubnei Yisrael asu ka'asher tziva Adonai et Moshe. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Yamdu Amagbi Avahagolel.
We rise for the lifting and tying of the Sefer Torah.
Thank you.
Torah asher Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai yad Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe.
Torah, 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 Torah. You are welcome to be seated as the Torah is in the holder. Yeah, I'll have to find out. That's a good question. I can't remember. There's got to be a separate. Yeah, I don't know what. It may be what one that we're used to though. Yeah. So the Haftaron for today is taken from the prophet Ezekiel.
And I mentioned those of you who are at the Turning Points class the other night on Wednesday night, this was the Haftaron I was referring to. It continues the discussion of the responsibilities that are to be fulfilled by the priests found in the Torah reading. So we've been, in the Emor, we've looked at, again, I mentioned the beginning of the Parsha talks about specifically about the role of the priests and what they're to be doing. Of course, that was a time when the tabernacle was standing and those sacrifices and things were being done. But here, as we fast forward in history, we find that the temple is destroyed and the Israelites are sitting in exile in Babylonia. And here comes the prophet to say, here, what do you need to do? He gives the people hope. That's part of his job. And he tells them that the temple will one day be rebuilt, which we know it will be. There will be a second temple at this point. And those who accept the responsibility of leadership, he's speaking to those priests, they will have the job of helping to rebuild the temple and fulfill their role in it. And he's reminding them to stay the course, to look ahead and know that they need to act now and in the future with a sense of kedusha, with a sense of sanctity and holiness. Even though the Torah, the temple is not standing, even though they're sitting in exile, it's a reminder not to lose their way, and certainly a reminder to the people that there is still hope. And we know, of course, a few years later, they will return, the exiles will return, many of them, to Jerusalem, and the temple will be rebuilt, and a second temple will be standing. So these priests are given a pep talk, if you will. And what is interesting, by the way, about this Haftarah is that the elements that Ezekiel's talking about really do not match up with what the Torah is telling us. So we see that there is indeed some differences by the time we get to Ezekiel's time of the way that the priests would engage in the temple were different than the way the priests began in the tabernacle. So it's an interesting dynamic that we see, but it reminds us that Jewish law and Jewish practice evolves, and this is one great example of that. So following the introductory bracha, you will find the Haftarah on page 735. It should be 735 in your Chumash. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek v'hakohanim ha'levihim b'nei tzadok asher shamru et mishmeret mikdashi bitot b'nei Yisrael me'alai hema yikravu elai l'sharateinu ve'amdu lefanai lehakriv li levadam neum Adonai Elohim hema yavo el mikdashi vehema yikravu el shulchani l'sharateini v'shamru et mishmarti v'haya bevoam el sha'arei hechatzer hapnimit bigdei fishtim yilbahashu v'lo yale alehem tzemer b'sharatam b'sha'arei hechatzer hapnimit v'avaita pa'arei fishtim yihu al rosham u'michnesei fishtim yihu al motnehem lo yachgiru bayaza uvtzetam el hechatzer hachitzona el ha'am yifshatu et bigdeihem asher hema misharatim bam v'hinichu otam v'lishchot hakodesh ולבשו בגדים אחרים, ולא יקדשו את העם בבגדיהם. וראשם לא יגלחו, ופרה לא ישלחו, כסום יחסמו את ראשיהם. ויין לא ישתו כל כהן בבואם אל החצר הפנימית. ואלמנה וגרושה לא ייחו להם לנשים, כי אם בתולות מזרע בית ישראל, והאלמנה אשר תהיה אלמנה מכהן ייקחו. ואת עמי יורו בין קודש לחול, ובין טמא לטהור יודיעו. ועל ריב המה יעמדו למשפט, במשפטי ישפטו, ואת תורתי ואת חוקותי בכל מועדי ישמרו, ואת שבתותי יקדשו. ואל מת אדם לא יבוא לטמאה, כי אם לאב ולאם ולבן ולבת לאח ולאחות אשר לא הייתה לאיש יטמאו. ואחרי טהרתו 7 ימים יספרו לו, וביום בואו אל הקודש, אל החצר הפנימית לשרת בקודש, יקריב חטאתו נאום אדוני אלוהים. והייתה להם לנחלה, היא נחלתם, ואחוזה לא תיתנו להם בישראל, אני אחוזתם. ומנחה והחטאת והאשם המה יאכלו, וכל חרם בישראל להם יהיה. וראשית כל ביקורי חול, וכל תרומת קול, מכל תרומותיכם לכהנים יהיה. וראשית אריסותיכם תיתנו לכהן, להניח ברכה אל ביתך. כל נבלה וטרפה מן העוף ומן הבהמה לא יאכלו הכהנים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר יוסף, מדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך חור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו, רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, ולא עלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ומלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבני רו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. Amen. Yeah. We turn to the prayer for our country on page 177, as we always have the custom of adding prayers appropriately, I think, after the end of the Torah reading for community. These are community prayers, if you think about it. Prayer for the well-being of our country, followed by the prayer for the well-being of the state of Israel. These are prayers that we hope will bring shalom to the world and remind us of the work we need to do as a community to make our country stronger, to make sure that Israel remains strong as well. So page 177, as Judge Marcia leads us on the prayer for our country.
Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land.
Adonai, God, whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land.
May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen.
Shkoach. Page 178, you'll find the prayer for the state of Israel as we read. Becca.
A prayer for the state of Israel. Avino Shabbat Shemayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love. Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown them, their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace, with inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen.
Shkoach. Page 181, you'll find the concluding part of the Torah service with Ashrei. Those of you who are up here before, come on back up, please. Samuel, Micah, Elijah, Hannah, wherever she is. Anyone else who wants to join them, you are welcome to. As we turn to page 181, last week we had 30 of them all on the bima. We had our Shabbaton, our IPRS Shabbaton. We were hanging from the rafters with our kids leading. So page 181, you'll find Ashrei, as here she comes, as the four of you lead us.
Ashrei yoshvei vetecha, od halu hasela.
Ashrei-ham shekachalo, Ashrei-ham shedonai Elohav.
Tehila leDavid, aromim chai hamelech, ve'afatahim kale olam vaed.
Bechol yamar v'achecha, v'yalalashimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Ananaim Halomeod, Velidato en Heker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, ugverotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Bezuz narotecha yomeru, ugdelatecha saprena.
Zecher altucha yamiu, v'tzikatecha yeranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdal chased.
Tov Adonai leko, v'rachamav kol ma'asav.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivarchucha.
Kevod malchutecha yameru, ugviratecha yedaberu.
Lehodia lifnei Adam gevurotav, uchvod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut kol amim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai lochol hanoflim, v'zokef lechol hakfufim.
Einei kol elecha yesaberu, ve'alten oten lahem et kol klam ve'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, umaspil lechol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai bechol deracha, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai lechol korab, lechol asher yikra'u v'emet.
Ritzon yerei al yaseh, ve'et shavatam yishma v'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et kol ahavav, yet kol shayim yashmin.
Tehilat Adonai yedaber pi, v'divrei koch v'shav kevshol shol yalam va'ed.
V'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata v'yad olam, hallelujah. We rise for Seder Haknasat HaTorah as we return the Torah scroll to the Aron HaKodesh, top of page 183.
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki nishgav shemo lavado. Odo eretz v'shamayim,
vayaharem keheren le'amo, tehila lechol hasidav, lifnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah.
Adonai alamayim el hakavod hirim, Adonai alamayim rabim. Kol Adonai ma'akoach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, V'shaver Adonai echarzei ha'avanon. Vayikidem k'mo egel avanon v'siryon k'hemo v'reimim. Kol Adonai otzem ha'votesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh. Isok Yarot V'chaloch V'lo Omer Kavod Adonai Lama Yashav V'yeshev Adonai Melech Le'olam Adonai Oz Le'am Lo Yitain Adonai Yevarech Et Amo V'Shalom V'Chol Yomar. Et Chaim Hi Lamazikim Ba V'Tov Hecha Meushar Deracheha Darkei Noam V'Chol Netivotecha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elech Aminashua Hadish Hadish Yameinu Hadish Yameinu
As the Aron HaKodesh is closed, you may be seated. Those of you on the beam will get you back up in a few minutes. So, or you can sit up here if you want. And you don't have to take a trek down. You can sit back here. Keep Craig company. There you go. Our special darshan this morning is Nami Ichalav. He is, of course, the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of San Antonio. And you may have noticed this year there have been some special initiatives connecting our communities. We've had each of the major congregations have been sponsoring events that have been open, and the Federation has been promoting and helping to make happen. And as part of that connection, I know that you've been traveling to the different congregations to be able to tell us a little bit more about the Jewish Federation. I know we have several of you who are members here who are on the board and active. It is a very important institution internationally, nationally, and certainly locally. Bringing all of us together as a Jewish community is what the Federation helps to do. So we have an umbrella of sorts, or a coordinator that helps us to really be as a community should be. And of course, you know, and he will tell you, I'm sure, extensions underneath that umbrella that benefit all of us as a community. So I will love to come to the Bima. Nami, if you'll come forward and share with us again some words really about celebrating community.
I guess I'll stand on this. It makes me feel a little bit taller. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Congregation Agudas Achim, for inviting us here and for joining us today. Before I begin, I do have to say that I have a newfound respect for the rabbis. I write a weekly column, and to come up with that column and to read the Torah and to do that every week is a challenge. To do two of them and to make each of them, every week is all the more of a challenge. And Rabbi does it every week. She writes her column, and then she shares the story here and about the Torah portion. So, sometimes we just take things for granted and we assume everything is there. And so I thank you for sharing the Bima with me, or for letting me share the Bima with you. Jewish Austrian-American classical composer and pianist Artur Schnabel had a unique way of explaining his talent. Schnabel would say, "The notes I handle no better than any other pianist, but the pauses between the notes, that's where the art resides." Schnabel was described as a spiritual musician. He was known for his intellectual seriousness. In fact, his teacher, Theodor Leschetizky, one of Europe's great 19th century piano teachers, told him that he wouldn't amount to anything. He would never be a pianist because he was a musician. You see, Schnabel enjoyed listening to the music and trying to understand what the music was about, why it was created, and what emotions it was trying to evoke. Schnabel was not simply about playing the piano that he saw and the notes he saw in front of him. Schnabel was about understanding what the audience was going through while they were hearing the music. This is how I read this week's Parsha Emor. Strangely, it's not about the name Emor, which literally translated means to speak. Rather, it's about the silence, the listening by the recipients at the speaking taking place. Speaking is like playing the notes. Any professional musician can do that. But creating the moments of silence in order to enable the hearing to take place, as Schnabel would say, that's where the art resides. You see, our fundamental prayer, above all other prayers, is a Shema, the prayer that commands us to listen. Yet rarely do we read in the Torah portion about the listening taking place. Too often we read about the Vayomer, and so said, or the Vayidaber, and so spoke, or the Pekudei. These are the commands. In fact, today, we started our Torah reading with Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor. And God spoke to Moses, saying. But why, you probably wonder, would the Jewish Federation of San Antonio choose that to talk about in a community Shabbat? It's because one of the lesser known responsibilities that we have at the Jewish Federation is the importance of listening. The Jewish Federation has three primary focuses that we talk about: to gather the community and make us stronger, to plan for the community to move us forward together, and to secure the resources that we need for our future Jewish community. To gather, to plan, to secure. Yet none of these can be achieved if we do not listen. Too often the community hears us speaking, as you're doing right now, or asking, as we do when we have our annual campaign and ask for funds from the community, or when we inform the community, when we reach out to the Jewish agencies to talk to them about local security or anti-Semitism that might be going on in the community, and we function as the liaison with law enforcement. But those are our Emor moments, not our Shema moments. In the coming year, the Jewish Federation of San Antonio will be collaborating with all our agencies again and synagogues to pursue a community study. The last time we had a community study in San Antonio was in 2007. To successfully accomplish a community study, the Jewish Federation needs to listen. We'll be hiring a national research group to reach out to each of you here and to those not here. We need to know what your Jewish needs are, what your wants and Jewish aspirations are. Because building a future needs lots of input, ideas, suggestions, and many possibilities. Rabbi talked about our Jewish calendar. Tomorrow is a Jewish holiday, rarely on anybody's calendar. It's so obscure that there are no laws, there are no obligations, there are no prayers to celebrate this Jewish holiday. The holiday is Pesach Sheni, a second Pesach. Did we even know that there was a second Pesach? We finally got done 30 days ago with Pesach, put away the dishes, put away the food, finally rolled out the chametz, and now 30 days later we have another one. But why? Why do we have a second Pesach, a Pesach Sheni? Pesach Sheni is a day to honor the Hebrews who couldn't perform the first Pesach. They were the Hebrews who had to carry out the dead during the Exodus from Egypt. They were impure and not allowed to partake in the Pesach offering. And when God told the Hebrews 1 year on the anniversary of their exodus from Egypt to celebrate Pesach, those Hebrews who were impure, who were with the dead, could not celebrate. They went to Moshe and they said to Moshe, "That's not right. We are part of this. We deserve to be able to make a Pesach sacrifice. Us being excluded because what we're doing is honoring the dead is not right." Moses listened to them. Moses took their concern to God directly and said to them, "How can we exclude these members of the community?" God heard their words, and God decided to create a Pesach Sheni, 30 days after the first Pesach, which would allow for a ritual cleansing of those individuals and allow them to make a Passover sacrifice. I am not a musician. I'm not a business person. I'm actually an educator. I can tell you the best teachers were the ones who came into the classroom and taught students, not subjects. The teachers who listened to the students' needs, who heard their students' wants, and who understood the partnership that real and successful education achieves, they were the ones who were able to pause between the notes. We have a responsibility to stand up and be heard, to listen when it's necessary, and to share our thoughts when it's important. This coming year, the Jewish Federation is going to be reaching out to you. Please share with those who are not here that when we call, we want you to answer that call. We want to know all about what your thoughts are, what you want the Jewish community to look like. Because 100 years ago, in 1922, Jewish community leaders came together and formed what was the precursor of the Jewish Federation. For 5 years, there was an organization that led into the Jewish Federation of San Antonio, which was founded in 1927. We are enjoying the benefits of the Jewish community of San Antonio because there were those who came before us to make sure that we were here to enjoy it. It is our obligation, it is our responsibility, and it is incumbent upon us to make sure that 100 years from now, there will be others to enjoy it too. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing the Bima, and thank you for inviting us to Agudas.
We take those words of Torah to heart, I think, and that Nami's background as an educator is quite apparent, and it's wonderful. Whenever he speaks, we learn for sure. So we'll answer the call when Federation does call, continue to support, just as they support us as a community, and we celebrate that relationship, and we celebrate the fact that we can be together and support one another. Yeshikoach. We're going to move forward into the concluding part of our service, our brief Musaf service. So I'd like those of you who are still up here, there you go. Page 184, you will find the beginning of Musaf. We begin with Chatzi Kaddish, and Jeff will lead along with our students. So 184. We rise.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
יעמד יברך ירצה וימליך מלכותי בחיי כל יומך וחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם יומיה יתברך יתברך ויסתבח ויתבהר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירה בעולמה ויאמרו
Amen. We begin the Amidah together, page 185.
Adonai sefatai tifta ufi agid tehilate. Adonai sefatai tifta ufi agid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chazdei Avot, Maybe Goel Livnei B'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר פקד מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופקד שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מהלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה ויאמר Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, Melech haaretz kevodo, kevodo, mahale, mahale, olam ha'emekom kevodo, kevodo, mahale, mahale, olam ha'emekom kevodo, kevodo, mahale. Mishartav shoalim, shoalim zela ze ayim ekom kevodo. Mishartav shoalim, shoalim zela ze ayim ekom kevodo. Leumatam baruch yomeru. Baruch Kavod Adonai, Mim Komo, Hu Yifen Berachamim, V'yachonam Ham Yachadim Shemo, Ham Yachadim Shemo, Erev V'havoker, V'chol Yom Tamid, Pa'amahayim, Be'ahava Shema Omerim, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Hu Yashmienu, Berachamav Shehini, Leheinei Kol Chai, Liot Lachem Lelohim, Ani Adonai Eloheichem, Divrei Kodshecha Katu Lemor, Yimloch Adonai Leolam, Elohai Tzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador Nagi God Lecha, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador Nagi God Lecha, Ule Netzach Netzachim, Kedushatecha Nakdish, Kedushatecha Nakdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu, Mihi Pinu Lo Yamush, Leolam, Leolam Va'ed. Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador Nagi God Lecha, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador Nagi God Lecha, Ki El Melech Gadol, Gadol V'Kadosh, V'Kadosh Ata. La 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 la. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue with the singing of Oseh Shalom on the bottom of 202.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Hebrew, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Beimru, Amen.
You'll find Kaddish Shalem, page 203.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma diberakirute v'yamlich bachute, v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayechon beit Yisrael, v'galav yizman kari ve'imeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam v'lal me'almaya, nitbarach, Yiparak, Vishtabak, Vipar, Vitamam, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalash, Made Kudisha, Rehu, Le'ela, Mikoberchata, Vishrata, Tishbachata, Benakamata, Damiram, Beama, Vimeru, Tikabal, Solota, Onavotachon, the Koyasra, Kadama, Kondi, Vishmai, Vimeru, Hey Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, Bechaim Alayna Koyasra, Vimeru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Imrama, Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael Ve'imeru. Amen.
You may be seated if you're standing. Page 204, you'll find Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadoneinu, Michamalkeinu, Michamoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Emalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru Avoteinu, Lefanecha Ketoret Hasam.
We rise for Elena, page 205.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד אוקיי נקבל לך
כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימות לעולם ועד.
נאמר, היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. As we prepare to recite Mourner's Kaddish today, we continue to give our hugs of support to the extended Siegel family on the death of Phyllis Siegel, and we give our hugs of support to Frank Pemberton and Orit Elon on the death of Frank's mother, Charlotte Pemberton. We also mention the names of those whose yortzites occur, either today or in the week that will be coming: Reuben Butch Adelstein, Rose Gittleman Cohen, Max Goldman, Sophia Gross, Arthur Hartstein, Leo Hirsch, Libby Horowitz, Richard Lewis Kaufman, Jeanette Millikan, Marvin Polonsky, Jaime Ruth, John Samela, Beatrice Sterenberg, and Ben Tudson. Those reciting Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, you are welcome to rise and join with me on page 207. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah B'yalma Divra Chirute B'yamlich Malchute B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uv'izman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Olamei Olmaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudisha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'yalma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. You are welcome to be seated. A quick hand over to Craig in just a second. A quick thank you to all those who are helping out this morning. Phil got us started with Psuke de Zimra. He has become the Psuke de Zimra master around here and got us going with that part of the service. And I know Sherry was in the back being an usher during that. We thank Mark and Bernard, of course, for being here on the Bima, always trustworthy, helping us being Gabayim. Jeff, thanks for Torah reading, and for Musaf as well. Craig for being here on the Bima, and all of you all for helping out with both Torah service and Musaf. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Raise the roof a little bit. Thank you. And we celebrate again our firsties, if you will. Jonathan, Mazel Tov again on your first Aliyah. And first time wearing a talit, really, too, also. So there you go. We had a lot of firsts for you today. I owe you more chocolate. I'll have to throw another Tershi kiss your way. And Micah, mazel tov again on reaching your first anniversary of your bar mitzvah. And thanks for helping out here on the Bima as always. And Phil, I know you were ushering as well. I think Rick Morris was back there, too. Weren't you back there helping out with our ushering? Thanks for keeping the guard back there. We appreciate it. Also want to thank, I know Leah's in the back from our office. She's always helping out, and certainly Jessica, who puts together our handout each week. Thank them, and our office staff along with Rabbi Ricky Arad. So thank all of them. And there will be, before I forget, because I'm going to forget to say it later, we are planning to do a little Torah talk today. We'll see where we decide to go. If it's too warm, we'll come inside. If we can be outside, we'll be outside, and we'll do a little Torah study today. So with that, Craig, I think I have here. Easiest what? Yes, excuse me. Yes, let me make sure to know that it's after singing. So we've been doing a lot of good singing. Jeff's well, Celeste and Jeff are our Ruach masters up here. So after singing, we will certainly join together and do a little Torah study too.
Well, thank you very much, Rabbi. Thank you for leading us in a beautiful and insightful service this morning. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Please join us immediately after services for a Kiddush lunch sponsored by the Jewish Federation. We thank Nami and crew for that. Please join us every morning, weekdays at 7:30 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. for morning minyan. We have a few upcoming events I would like to tell you about. We have a Lag BaOmer barbecue and bonfire this Wednesday, May 18th at 5 p.m. at the Cavi Family Pavilion. Come celebrate Lag BaOmer with us. Food, singing, and music, and all are welcome. Please RSVP to the office. Next Friday is Hannah Ross's 103rd birthday dinner celebration. It's on Friday, May 20th, 6 p.m., services, and then a Shabbat dinner, and everybody is invited to come celebrate with Hannah and the Ross and Stern families. Please RSVP by May 13th for this wonderful Simcha. Rabbi Cohen's farewell Kiddush luncheon will be next Saturday, May 21st, following Shabbat services. We're inviting the entire congregation to a special Kiddush lunch for Rabbi Sharon Cohen and the Cohen-Siegel family. Please RSVP by May 17th. The Cultural Havara is meeting on Sunday, May 22nd at 3 p.m. at the McNay Art Museum. San Antonio native Donald Moffat returns to his birthplace in this homecoming exhibition. Please RSVP to Sherry Trachtenbroit if you'd like to join that group. The 8th annual Texas Kosher Barbecue Championship will be November 6th, 2022, so get ready to eat over a literal ton of brisket, chicken, salmon, and beans. Please stay tuned for more details. And the Heinz Preschool Summer Camp will take place June 13th through August 5th with week and day options, and extended care is available. It's open to all 6 weeks to 8 years old. Please join us for music, science experiments, water slides, and so much more. Please contact April Smith, our interim director of the preschool, for more information. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Greg. We give an extended thank you to Nami. Thanks for teaching me. It's a beautiful thought about Pesach Sheni the other day. There's a little note in our Luach actually about it. That's about all you can find in that, and it says on if you look at a Jewish calendar, Pesach Sheni, and then you're like, okay, what's that? So thank you for sharing with the congregation what it is, and it is important, and the message that you gave about listening and figuring out how to adapt and make changes is wonderful. So So I hope you will stay here for a little bit of kiddush lunch, again sponsored by the Federation, and then we'll do some singing, and then we'll do some studying, so there's more to come if you'd like. With that, we're going to turn to page 211, as you will find Adon Olam there. Those of you on the beam, if you'll come on back up to join with a little bit of 211. And as Craig said, next week is my last time on the Bima, so I hope you'll come and we will have a spirited Shabbat as always. So a taste of that spirit is in our kids right here for sure, and Jeff always carries it with him, so don't miss the singing after Kiddush lunch for sure. So page 211, we will do Adon Olam, and then we will rise and do our Kiddush and Motzi here on the Bima before we go back and eat. What you got for us, guys? 211.
Adon Olam Asher Mala
V'terem
Kol Yitzir Nivra V'yed Nasa V'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yachareh Kichlot HaKol V'hado Yivlo Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'zipara V'hu Echad V'eit Sheni Lehamshir Lo Lehamira V'li Reshit V'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz Lehamishra V'hu Eli V'chayin Goli V'tzor Chevli V'yetzara V'hu Nisi Umanosli Menach Kosi V'yom Ekra V'yado Afkid Ruchi V'yetishan V'ha'ira V'yibruchi Yeviyati Adonai Li Elohira.
Shabbat Shalom, we rise on page 77 as we join together in Kiddush for Shabbat.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם עוד היא לעולם עוד היא לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Al Ken Barach Adonai Yom HaShabbat V'Kodeshehu Sabri Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Peri HaGahapim.
Here we go. Hold on. I have clean fingers. You don't. Ready? Guys ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom, everyone.
I hadn't been coming because I was in Mexico
I was wondering.
for 2 weeks.
I didn't know if you went back to Monterey or down to Mexico. You told me you were going. I remember that.
Yeah,
You told me you were going.
Monterrey, and then I went south, further south. What beautiful.
Good. Welcome back. Good to have you. Feeling good?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I will be missing you for a second.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wish you the best.
Look at this guy.
My cousin. I guess I have to come over to this table to be able to. Decision destroyed because they destroyed the Jewish community of Toledo. With the great, they have been in contact always with Jerusalem and with other places like that in the Middle East. And they were the keepers of the text. They kept it for hundreds of years.
So let's do it. Can we do it as part of Torah Talk? I'm sure people would want to see that. So I'm going to study it. Sorry, give her a hug when you get home. Yeah, so let's look at it. We'll look at it in a few minutes.